It's my pleasure to introduce Professor C.B. Bhattacharya from the University of Pittsburgh. CB is the H.J. Zoffer Chair in Sustainability and Ethics and founder and director of the Center for Sustainable Business at the Joseph M. Katz Graduate School of Business in Pittsburgh. He is truly a world-renowned expert in business strategy innovation, and his focus is on increasing business and social value. His latest book, entitled Small Actions, Big Difference, Leveraging Corporate Responsibility to Drive Business and Societal Values, was published by Routledge in 2019. Professor Bhattacharya is part of a select group of faculty that is named to Business Week's Outstanding Faculty list, and he's been recognized by Thomson Reuters and Google Scholar as one of the top cited scholars in the field. Two of the landmark articles published by CB include Does Doing Good Always Lead to Doing Better? 2001 Journal of Marketing Research, and follow-up Corporate Social Responsibility, Customer Satisfaction, and Market Value in the JM. Most recently in 2022, he published Corporate Purposes and Employee Sustainability Behaviors in the Journal of Business Ethics. Please join me in welcoming CB.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. And it's a great pleasure for me to be here. It's not an easy task coming at the rare end of this stellar group of colleagues, and excellent insights from all of them. I am going to again take a slightly different tack, which I hope will be interesting for some of you, because I want to give a slightly historical perspective on how I got into this field. And I want to make an important point, if there are young researchers, doctoral students in the audience, that research ideas can actually come from practice. You can actually, learn from practitioners kind of what problems they're facing, and that might even lead to some kind of a new paradigm, if not, revolutionary, at least something that, you can chew on for several years. And my story goes like this. Atul will remember perhaps, but we long back, we were both at Emory University, and I was doing a program whereby I would teach marketing research to undergrad and graduate students. And having been a brand manager in my previous life before doing my PhD, I knew that you couldn't really learn marketing research, by sitting behind the desk. Okay, you got to go out into the field. So I started doing a program with my students that, okay, let's do field projects for nonprofit organizations who do not have the ability, nonprofit and social cause organizations who do not have the ability necessarily to hire, high-priced consultants. So we got into this program and, started doing projects for the Red Cross, the Cancer Society, etc. And in the midst of that, I met a gentleman by the name of, I have to learn how to move my slide, and everything is frozen. How can I? Does anybody have any insight into?
Try the cursors or click.
No, I thought the shift button. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Don't deduct any points, please. So I met this gentleman. His name was Ben Cohen. He is the CEO of this company called Ben and Jerry's. And he asked me so I said, we're doing this program. Do you have a question we can answer for you? And he asked me a very interesting question. He said, we do a lot for the environment. We support the rainforest movement. We do a lot for society. We, pay our workers a living wage. He said, can you help me understand if what we do for the environment and society, does it help us sell ice cream? So would people buy Ben and Jerry's, all else equal, because of our social and environmental performance? And I was really intrigued by this question. I said, I don't know the answer to this question, but I am interested in trying to figure this out. And I was interested in figure this out because as marketers, we were always thinking about increasing sales, right? I mean, how do you increase sales? But as some of the previous speakers said, we've been fixated on price, promotion, product quality, the 4 Ps of marketing, to drive sales. Nobody was thinking about environmental attributes and social attributes as being the drivers of sales. And so this is the question he was asking me. You're seeing this 2 by 2. He was asking me, can we drive business value by creating social and environmental value? So is there a space in this upper right-hand quadrant, plain and simple? Does that space exist where you can do well by doing good? And so this is the space where I said, well, okay, can we actually, if we integrate people and planet concerns into our business models, can we drive profit? Essentially, that's what it came down to. And, again, Sandra and others have done tremendous work in this area. We call this the triple bottom line. And truly, if every company worked in this way, we would achieve some kind of a sustainable business model. It's possible. But again, as Atul was saying in his talk, the world did not kind of, emerge that way. So for most of post-industrial revolution and post-World War II in the United States, what we have had is companies taking value away from the society and from our natural environment and boosting their business value. So, we saw internalizing, so the need to, they do not internalize externalities. Okay, so let's build a plant overseas. We don't have to pay for the pollution. We don't have to pay for the healthcare of the workers, but of course we can make profits. And so this is the phenomenon that many of you, of course, know. So if every party, tries to maximize their private gain, it invariably leads to collective loss. It invariably leads to collective loss. And this phenomenon is known as the tragedy of the commons. And the tragedy of the commons, I will add to one thing that Atul and Sandra and Kate, everybody said in their talk, is that this consumption mania was socially engineered. It was actually socially engineered post-World War II, more than anything else, where it has been documented that, President Eisenhower and his team, they deliberately set out to make consumption the absolute kind of goal of life, deriving status from consumption and all that stuff. You can read up on that. There's an article by a gentleman by the name of Victor Lebeau in the Journal of Retailing in 1955. And so here we have the tragedy of the commons, and there we have, so there is no way but to go to the triple bottom line. And this is the paper that Bob alluded to in the introduction. Does doing good always lead to doing better? That was the first paper in this area that at least Shankar Sen and I published in the Journal of Marketing Research, showing, yes, there is this space in the upper right-hand quadrant. It is possible to do well by doing good, but mere engagement is not enough. You have to bake CSR, as we were calling it in those days, into your strategy. You have to bake CSR into your corporate strategy. Only then will you derive any reward. When I was walking the halls of companies, I found that this was not happening. People were not kind of baking the CSR or sustainability into their strategy. And in fact, it was highly departmentalized. There was only one person kind of doing the sustainability job. So we got the message, sustainability is our license to operate because of all the problems we have. But where I want to go is where every individual in an organization, in a household, well, first, let's say in an organization, conducts business through the lens of sustainability. What does that mean? It means that the well-being of our planet and people would be considered in every business decision from the mailroom to the boardroom. Whereas now people are thinking of sustainability, okay, it's compliance, okay, it's risk reduction, okay, it's opportunity, but very few companies are thinking of, how do we integrate the environment and society into every business decision? And that's if we can get there, then we can sustain ourselves as a species. That's the point to note here. And with this intention, I started researching kind of, okay, what are the things that companies can do to make sustainability everyone's job. And this is the book, Small Actions, Big Difference. I will leave this for you to the interested reader as to read on your own time. But just to say that what I propose in this book is a construct called psychological ownership, which is well established in the organizational behavior literature, but I borrow this and apply it to the context of sustainability. And there's a lot of theory behind it as to why it's applicable. And the Journal of Business Ethics paper that Bob alluded to actually shows empirically that when employees perceive their company to have a higher sense of purpose, it does, through that construct of ownership, actually prompt them to engage in more sustainable behaviors. I urge you to take a look at the book and the paper, but now I want to talk a little more about that 2x2 framework as the finishing. So this is where we were, right? So this is what we have researched, from the tragedy of the commons to the triple bottom line, right? So that this is the past 25 years. Mind you, Ben Cohen asked me that question in 1995, and I'm sure many of you were not born yet, but that goes to show the longevity and how long we've been working on some of these problems. Now, the question is, what about these other two quadrants? And that's where the new research, I think, can come in. Now, if you look at the upper right-hand quadrant, interesting as it is, you'll realize that this is kind of instrumental because we are still engaging in environmental and social action to boost our profit. And Sandra's work here is unparalleled. I don't have to say, there's work to show that profit can increase if you do well in the environmental and social front. But it's instrumental. We are doing it because it's the smart thing to do. But now I'm starting to think, how about, when you infuse purpose, that leads to a different kind of mindset. And this is a wide open field yet. We've only started tinkering with this. Purpose is the answer to the question, why do we do what we do? Why do we do what we do? It is not mission, it is not vision. But if you make purpose the North Star, and please read the book and the JBE article and many other articles on purpose that have been published to get a sense of how purpose can, in fact, drive this kind of action on the triple bottom line and make it more sensible. But how about thinking more deep, decoupling consumption and well-being, so not making consumption the be-all and end-all of life. So this is the quadrant where I call that doing the right thing. So what? We can lose profit. It doesn't matter. We have enough. Corporations have more money than in the history of humanity. So it doesn't mean that we cannot, reset to a new level of profitability. Doing the right thing. So this is where morality comes into play, right? Responsible consumption, all the reduce, reuse, recycle, all of that stuff. So you guys should do research on how do we go from this instrumental mindset to the normative mindset of doing the right thing. And we don't have to go from the triple bottom line. There are several companies who are, still destroying the environment and society to boost business value. They can perhaps directly come, and this is where teaching comes in. We are teaching our young undergrads and MBAs to do the right thing. So maybe they can take companies who are in that tragedy of the common space and take them to the lower right-hand quadrant of the doing the right thing space. And then last but not least, you guys can also research this idea that if I do not adapt in time, so I'm talking about Silicon Valley Bank, perhaps as an example, or the Exxons of the world who are not shifting away from fossil fuels, I think, in time. There's so much stranded assets in fossil fuels right now. And maybe it's mortality. So maybe there is some kind of agility issue or adaptability issue that if you are not able to do it strategically in some kind of timeline, and I'm not an expert in this area, but I just thought of the issue, and it's researchable, I believe, that you're gonna face mortality. So there's a lot to still unpack in this particular area of doing well by doing good, and several new papers to be written. In that vein, there is also a special issue of JM that's coming up in terms of new paradigms. We just did a roundtable at the Society for Consumer Psychology on how to reduce consumption. Imagine a bunch of 12 marketing academics huddling around in a room and talking about how do we get people to buy less. But that's where we need to go, folks. If you have any other thoughts, any questions, feel free to reach out. I shall stop here, and I shall also stop sharing my screen so that I can hand it over to Bob and we can get a discussion going. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.